A very good morning to my guest, who holds a bachelor's science degree in psychology from McMaster's University, has a career in information technology. It has lasted 30 years, and now she's into software. But this morning, as a life coach, is where we welcome her. Suzanne Shim, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Rennie. Great to be here.
It is great to have you this Sunday morning. And one of the reasons we said we would sit down to talk is because this is a changing economy. And people are having life challenges in the workplace, challenges in retuning, in retraining themselves, problems in talking to their families about, hey, what used to be does not exist anymore. These are the challenges. So let me start in thanking you for being here by saying adjusting to the new economic realities takes a toll on both the household and relationships. People are less tolerant, and many partners do not know how to express to the loved ones and family the constraints and uncomfortable fact that they now have to be doing without what they're accustomed to. As a life coach, how do you sit with families and help them to adjust to this discussion with families? How difficult is that?
Well, I think money is always a very difficult subject for most people. And we push away things we don't want to think about. And sometimes we're not even aware of how deep and how fundamental our affairs are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when we have to deal with difficult circumstances, then we really have to make friends with our fears. We have to talk to them. We have to really delve into what am I really afraid of, and that's hard. That's hard. But I think it's important to know where your fears come from, so that you're willing to be vulnerable to the people you love. And reach out to them and ask for their help and their understanding.
Some folks may hear you use the term vulnerability and not exactly follow where is it in this context. Well, there is vulnerability in the area of exposing two things. One, your real worth. Two, what you projected as your worth, because you really have to get naked with your finances when things change to this extent. So I would say to you as my significant other, listen, I have so and so and so and so, but I've got a couple of things in the cooker that I hitherto did not detail. Now, because the expectations have changed, I have to be totally naked in that discussion. That is a very difficult world or wall to surmount.
Well, naked is a really good word. I think that we all fear being naked, both literally and metaphorically.
Mm-hmm.
And we are afraid of letting people see who we really are, deep down inside. And so the heart of vulnerability is being willing to be naked and being willing to ask for help and see, this is who I am, and take the risk that people love you anyway.
Lifestyle coach Suzanne Shim is who we are talking to. We live in a world, however, where the ideal, there was a time where the ideal of, listen, we in this sink or swim forever, for richer, for poorer, and that worked all the time. Unfortunately, life with the instant coffee mentality people have and the materialism into a sphere now where you are defined by your worth. And folks who are losing their jobs now find themselves in many argue, untenable situation, because on the one hand, they want to be real. As you said, as a life coach, you will advise me, hey, sit down and talk about it. I want to be real, but I have a problem with acceptance, fearing that is going to be a problem.
Yes. At the heart of it is the taking of risks. And people think of taking risks as doing dangerous things. But the big risks are really with showing ourselves to be who we are. And that, I think, is the really scary thing that most people perhaps don't really confront in their lives. They push it away.
Keeping up with the neighbors, or the Joneses, as it is called, is another reason why people find it difficult to modify their lifestyle, because they are seen as so and so, having so and so, they're driving so and so, and or their neighbors are driving so and so, and or they may live in a gated community and everybody's got this, or they're in a regular community, and their kids are under the pressure because an adjustment makes it difficult. So they have all these factors working against them coming down and having a conversation. Listen, things have changed. That's what we're talking about, by the way, listeners.
Well, it's a question of who you are. We are tempted to feel that, we act, therefore we are, or we spend, therefore we are. But who we are is perhaps in many ways mysterious. And it is that other people will help you figure out who you are, because you're stuck in your own head about who you think you are. So this is why you need to reach out and say, tell me who you think I am, or help me with this.
But you see, and I ask you, by the way, my guest, Suzanne Shim, psychology graduate, Masters University. We're having this discussion this morning because in the changing fortunes in the country, it's a new reality that a lot of folks don't even know how to confront, much less surmount. So we're talking about confronting that and dealing with that with those close to you, so they understand the pressure cooker that you're in. And it is that pressure cooker that I feel why most folks do not speak out and instead get locked into themselves. That brings on a whole lot of depression and a lot of things undesirable, does it not?
Yes, I think fear is at the heart of many of the choices and decisions we make. And we live in a world where people are afraid to be afraid. They are afraid to look at the dark side of themselves. But I think that is where all of the growth will come from, because it is the things that we push away that fragment and disintegrate us. And it is in welcoming and acknowledging those parts of ourselves that we can find new possibilities.
I ask you here because I'm going on the one hand, looking at what we have articulated thus far and so much more we are yet to go into, and I say, it is difficult for the individual to come out of himself, herself, so they're going to need help. And getting help is now costly in changing economic climate. So I'm going how do we reconcile this? And that's why I ask you here. One of the problems folks have is because they either have lost their jobs, feel threatened because the job situation is no longer stable. They must retune, refine, redirect, or change careers. That is something that a lot of people decide to postpone, thinking that if you don't think about it, it's not going to happen. But it, again, shakes the core of that family unit. As a life coach, you must have seen this many times.
Yes. I think that we often ignore some of the resources we have at our disposal. We stay in the small box that we're accustomed to, and we don't think, how could I do this differently? What resources can I call upon? Who can I ask for help? What if I didn't do it the way I've always done it? So there are often many things we could do differently if only we had a different perspective on what we could do or what was possible. And some of that is living in the present and being alive to, I could just do this differently.
Is it not true to say that is easier said than done? Because, as I said, because of the box we put ourselves in, one, because society has put us there, or we put ourselves there, as you said, we have trapped ourselves in our minds. We are not reaching out to one extended family, at least in that area. We're not even reaching out to our own family, much more extended family, and even more remotely so community. So when you have a situation where you need to reach out for help before the situation pushes you to accept help, where you need to reach out to help, there is a reluctance to do that. And if you concur with that, then the question is, how do we get past that phase?
I think it comes from finally deciding I can't do it on my own. And that's a place that's hard to get to for a lot of people. But when you run out of all of the resources that you can readily use yourself, I think you get to a point where there's no choice. You have to. But it would be nice if you could get to that point earlier. But I think that we are so programmed to try to be powerful ourselves and to try to be invulnerable that we just don't like asking for help.
But I mean, when we look at, and I'm going to just expand on that a bit, because People are living with massive mortgages, overdrafts, car loans, and stuff like that. It's a lifestyle that they thought, it's part of what you said. People living in the past and don't want to, let me see your exact words, we live in the past or future, not in the present. And with that going on, hence the reason a lot of folks will not divorce the massive mortgages, which is to say, maybe find a smaller place, or take care the overdrafts, stop living beyond your means, which they're doing, or stop driving the latest car, having the latest car, or having more 2, 3, or 4 cars in their garages. How do you, as a life coach, speak to one to put aside that pride and come about doing it? I know it is going to vary from individual to individual, but you're sitting with me right now. I'm in that position. Suzanne, help me get out of this.
Well, it's a question of what do you want more? So we have things, we feel life should be this way. We begin to feel like, well, maybe it's not going to work out that way anymore. So to make that leap of giving up things you believe to be important or good for you, it's usually that you think there's something more important that you want. In other words, it could be freedom, it could be peace of mind, it could be just wanting to live your life in a different way. For instance, I have for decades wanted to travel extensively, and I have to confess that I've never acted upon that. But if you earnestly want something different, then you will find a way to get it, and you will trade off the pains of letting go what you have for the rewards of getting something you want even more, that is more powerful and more inspiring to you.
Psychology major Suzanne Shim is my guest here this morning. Interestingly, you said one of the things you wanted to do, you wanted to travel the world, travel extensively. So that is usually a problem, is it not, where folks fail to differentiate between needs and wants?
Yes.
And the other reason I ask of you is that how people get to start reconciling that they can live a very good life without the pressure of the society or the perception of them and or the societal value matrix that make them who they are.
Well, needs and wants, those are very subjective things. I think as a life coach, you ask somebody, what do you need? And they will tell you, they give you an answer. But if you dig deeper into that, if you see what is your real need, and we explore that, the real need is something simple and generic, like I want to be loved, or I want to be safe, or I want people to like me, and so if we go deeper to the need, you don't have a need for a big house. You don't have, what you have is a need for safety. So if we can find the real need, the need for safety, you can say, well, how can I create safety for myself using less money? Or how can I ask for love in a way that is honest and true, and is true to myself? And those are very frightening things. I can see the look on your face. Those are frightening things to ponder. And that is why, and that is the great risk that you take for a life that you cannot really imagine now. It is bigger and more grand and freer than you can imagine now, because you are trapped by your need to keep yourself safe. So I think, I don't know if you're connecting to what I'm saying, because a lot of this is very
I'm connected to what you're saying. All right, yes,
but those are, if we dig deep to our real needs, we can find ways to move past our fear, because we're trying for something bigger and grander and more wonderful.
You see, as a life coach, one of the areas, when you saw the perplexed look on my face, it was because I'm running in my head. We are in a society, unfortunately, where you can do wrong as long as you get away with it, which means you can find ways to shortcut your way to success and living a life that you really cannot sustain. Here is the connection, or the juxta, is that the individual must grow within, I am sure you will agree, before he can realize, listen, I don't need all these things or this validation, external validation. I can, just be myself. But that is a growth in, within self. But you live in a society where all around you can use shortcuts and you can use graft to get what you want. It works against finding yourself or your real self coming out or following the ideal, as against trying to live in the real, because everybody else is doing it. The crooked way, I mean.
We all know the real thing. We might try not to look at it, but we all know what's real. We all know when things are not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's not so much a question of being deceived by things that are not true. It is more a question of ignoring our knowledge that is so. Ignoring the little voice or the shiver of discomfort you feel when you do particular things. So we know, and we know these things, but we try to ignore them because they're uncomfortable.
Or maybe because we cannot bank it.
Yes.
From a material sense. Give us, in conclusion, Suzanne Shim, who is my guest here, lifetime coach. You've been doing this for quite some time. Give me 3 ways of best planning and implementing workable strategies for 2017 in the context of personal growth, being honest with your family, and adjusting to your new realities. Give me the top three ways one can...
Well, top 3 ways is understand what you're afraid of. Secondly, be willing to take risks with being who you really are. And third, be willing to believe that there are things that are possible that you can't even imagine now.
I like that. Believing, I think the biggest problem here is being able to take risks. You have repeated that often, and I believe that is what is so important. It is not a case of risk with $1 that you can recoup. It is a risk with yourself that you are exposing, and whether the understanding of relationships generally and relationship that you may find yourself in is one that you want to take that clothing off.
Yes.
All right, folks, I'm sure I can get in touch with you in many ways. Suzanne Shim, thank you so much for taking the time to come into us this morning. We wanted to do this at the first day of the new year, on New Year's Day itself, but I thought better of it. It is a wait well worth waiting for. It was good to meet you this morning.
It's been fun.
And I thank you very much. You have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us inside Brunch.
Okay.